Today's video is about Rust Island 2013 from the video game Rust Legacy that was available through Steam from Christmas 2013 to Christmas 2016, and that the island is approximately 15 kilometers across both directions. Now I'm going to say some things here. First thing is, when I talk about this map, I'm going to talk about the top, bottom, left, and right. I'm not going to say north, south, east, or west for a specific reason I'll bring up later if we have time. So let's get this done. Let's go to the top of the map. It shows numbers that shows Z as being 0. That was accidental. It ended up being that. It's very close to 0. It's actually plus or minus 1 or 2. The Y, being the altitude, is 271. Water level is at about 256. The X here is negative 7515. Okay. So that tells us that the first number in our series, the X, is how far up and down on our map it is. I know that we're using statements here that are ambiguous, but that's our most extreme top of map by literally looking at the map and drawing a line across using the box tool, etc. Now we're going to go to the far right side of the map, and we get a couple of insignificantly small numbers compared to 6415 being the extreme on the right side. So the last number is our left to right. Now we're going to go over here, which happens to be the furthest left point, and it's at 7,500 from the center. That gives you an idea that if you add the numbers together, we get around 1,500. Okay, now we're going to go here to confirm that. This is the furthest low point on the map, the bottom of the map, and this is also the area where everybody plays the game just about. And yeah, it's only 1/16 of the whole island, and it's at 7455. So that is one way of saying, when we use that, that those are the numbers. Now, those are derived from a utility called location, or POS for position, or just the word location typed out. Now we're going to go to the next image. This is actually my text. Here we go. Using position or location or other variations, and if we decide to just use north of tankers, we're going to call it north for now, above tankers, as our lower left corner of the map starting point, because we're going to be using the airdrop alert that tells us how many kilometers away the airdrop is. We're going to use those numbers. Now that's while standing at that location just north of tankers, which is at these numbers here. Okay? Now, when we're in the upper left-hand corner, where I literally got to the upper left-hand corner of that map, I ended up with it saying 13 kilometers away, versus the calculation based on the numbers I had at 13 and a half. When I was at the lower right corner, it said it was 11 kilometers away, and again, the calculation showed about 9 kilometers. This is good enough to confirm that we're dealing with an island that at least says, when we run routines that are supposed to know better, that it's around 13, 14 kilometers across each direction. When we do a diagonal, it says 16 kilometers, which, oddly enough, is about right too. So, okay. So here we go. Now, that was based on doing the equation this way. You can look at the numbers and find fault with it. I probably screwed it up, but this was me mashing the keyboard and trying to get the numbers right and forgetting how to do the frickin' proper, a squared, b squared, c squared thing. So the island at that point would be 8.7 by 6.2 miles, or 14 by 10 kilometers, or 54 square miles, or 140 square kilometers. Because we did that all based on it claiming to be kilometers. And then again, using position or POS or location or LOC, depending on the website I went, or excuse me, server I went to, only at map limits, we got these numbers, which indicate 14.9 by 14.9 kilometers, or a 15 kilometer or 9 mile across island at 81 square miles or 225 square kilometers. Now, I want to point out that a lot of these things will say undefined or say east when it's not. This is based on this variable, the var directions in the utility on the one I was able to get open, saying north, northeast, east, southeast, south, southwest, west, and northwest. That's an ordered sequence, so that's that. That could be just wrong or being freaking out because I was so fantastically away from the area that would be considered in bounds. So to conclude, the island is about 15 kilometers by 15 kilometers or other. Now, I also want to point out, I should mention it, that when I did 4 steps in game, that was 14 units of movement. But in the real world, 4 steps for me is 3.5 meters or 11 feet. That's closer to these units being feet rather than meters, which would make the island much smaller, like 3 to 1, which would mean that it would be a little over a couple of miles across. Your input is valuable. Please give it. Now, the reason I'm not saying east, west, north, or south normally is, number one, obviously the utility got it wrong because it was literally just wrong by our own assumptions. Number two, originally the Unity game engine did all these math calculations based on an XYZ coordinates that meant something different. They're called right-hand versus left-hand coordinate system. They switched it, and that caused the sun to rise in what we would call the south instead of. Been useful to you? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. We'll all need it.